Hey Brisbane, Townsville and Cairns, I'm unfortunately coming to your town soon with my magic show. Oh, that'd be good if it was, but it's actually unfortunately about aliens. Come see it.
So it's come to this. A Geordie's clip show.
Not really, but since the video I made updating everyone on the illustrious career trajectories of journalists after they attacked me did so well, I thought why not do the same thing for the second most respectable profession after tabloid journalists? Defamation lawyers. I've had run-ins with more of these guys than anyone should ever have to, and by run-ins I mean I've received a bunch of long, boring letters telling me that I've been mean online, and so now I owe someone $1 million. The first time I got one of these letters, I was kind of scared, but then I read it and I thought about it. Do I actually owe fat billionaire alleged fraudster Clive Palmer $500,000 because I called him Fatty McFuckhead as this letter is claiming? Like, I did call him that, but is the price right? In case you don't know, that was probably the first meaningful defamation threat and demand I got. Clive Palmer demanded $500,000 because I called him fat. Turns out I did owe him that $500,000. You can watch my video response here. But in a shocking and beautiful turn of events, the lawyer who wrote that letter demanding the $500,000 on behalf of Clive Palmer might now owe Clive Palmer $30 million.
Divide and conquer, baby.
Clive Palmer has just accused his long-standing lawyer Sam Iskander, the very lawyer who wrote to me that whiny letter of altering invoices from 2016 up until current year to the tune of up to $30 million. I mean, I wish I could say that their falling out was over how crap the legal threat I got 6 years ago was, and Clive Palmer only just finding out about the fatty video now, as it took his fat fingers 6 years to type it out. But I think it is more likely that the allegedly potential $30 million of altered invoices Iskander sent to Clive might have more of a ring to it. And how good is this? Sam Iskander has surrendered his practicing certificate. It's crazy how everyone eventually just takes themselves out. Which, speaking of, and I know that I said that I was just going to update you on a bunch of lawyers who have threatened me, but I have to update you on another journalist who took a swipe. ABC defense correspondent Andrew Green. Sorry, former ABC defense correspondent Andrew Green. He had a go at me for daring to say that ASPI, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, a think tank set up to push blindly pro-American military-industrial complex policies in Australia that is also funded by the US government and US defence contractors, was just that, a think tank set up to push blindly pro-American military-industrial complex policies in Australia and is also funded by the US government and US defence contractors. Scandal. Well, now he's had to resign in shame from the ABC after he got a paid trip from German submarine builder and defence company ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems whilst on annual leave from the ABC. 2 for 1 greedy, a shit boring holiday where all you get to see is German subs.
And I'm not talking about the fun kind you see at Berghain.
And you lost your job for it. At least if you went to Berghain, you wouldn't have been caught. No cameras allowed. Amazing, it's like a curse for all these journos. If you have a swipe at me, you're bound to end up on the teat of some foreign company / government. What's the bet he goes to ASPI or somewhere like that, just like Fergus Hunter? That swollen-faced little cretin. Anyway, back to the lawyers. Next we have Mick Bainbridge and Paul James, whose firm Operational Legal acted for total loose unit legend and Afghan war veteran Skojo when he threatened to sue me for, I can't even remember because YouTube removed the video, but I think it was essentially because I replayed some of his digger TikToks that really looked to me like they were celebrating war crimes and laughing at them, which was particularly insensitive because, Skojo, is that exactly what you want your target audience to do? Laugh and with, not at. There's a difference, like friendly fire versus hostile fire. Look it up. So this mongoloid sent a legal threat on behalf of Skojo and got the video removed from YouTube. I then did a video responding to that legal threat, and that video was also removed from YouTube. I then did a video about the fact that former clients of these lawyers that accuse them of, is ripping them off even the right legal term here? This video detailed how Mick Bainbridge and Paul James were /are directors of RSL New South Wales, whilst at the same time they provided legal advice to RSL sub-branches about incorporation, whilst the head office of RSL was refusing to provide that pretty boilerplate advice. This could appear to some people to be perhaps a bit of a conflict of interest. This video also detailed a complaint that alleged Operational Legal were charging exorbitant amounts for representing clients at the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide. And now, just as of last month, this video has been removed as well from YouTube due to defamation complaints. Every single Skojo-related video gone! Well, in Australia, anyway. All this without me stepping foot inside a courtroom. YouTube just unilaterally deciding to remove public interest videos time time and time again, giving me no chance to contest these removals because some Neanderthal who barely passed law school figured out how to write a sookie letter. What are they doing now? Well, it looks like at the start of the year, they were suing veterans that didn't want to pay their giant bills. Awesome. Really veteran-centered work. Maybe I'll have to do another video on them soon, so that can also get taken down. Now to another threat, this one I haven't talked about yet. I got this letter last year from lawyers Melissa Inglis and Brodie Roberts, who work and used to work at a firm called Rose Litigation. Roberts now works at Thompson Gear, yet I sure hope they review this after finding out about this conduct. The letter that I got sent alleged that I had defamed someone, yet in an extremely unethical and unorthodox move. Inglis and Roberts refused to identify who this client was unless I agreed to a meeting with them. Something sounded like I was getting set up for a fucking mob hit there. It's really got that, he just wants to talk. He just wants to talk. So I got my lawyers involved, but Inglis, Roberts, and the mysterious client parted ways very quickly before I could get any more info out of it. Now, Inglis and Roberts still refuse to identify who their client was. So to reiterate, I got an anonymous threat laundered through a lawyer with no way of knowing who it was from. Pretty off behavior from lawyers considering the whole firebombing and death threats context. That shit was still red hot at the time, by the way. Look, let's not talk about losers here. Let's talk about the real winners of the lawyer world. Those that actually follow through a little further than Sam Iskander. My favourites, solicitor Paul Svillins and barrister Sue Chrysanthu, who acted for Barilaro when he sued me for defamation. Well, for Paul, apart from losing the Ben Robert Smith case and Sue Chrysanthu being reprimanded by the New South Wales Bar Council for unsatisfactory professional conduct, they've been doing pretty well. So well, in fact, that they're kind of following the career trajectory of one of their own star clients. Do you guys remember how after Barilaro quit politics, he went to work as executive director of property development company Coronation Property? You might not, because certain non-legal circumstances forced me to remove the video I made about this fact from YouTube. You're starting to see a pattern here. What I can say is, I was sussing court listings the other day, as I do in my spare time, and it looks like Coronation Property was in court. Any guesses who their lawyers were? Nah, not Matlock. That'd be sick if it was, but it was the same as Barilaro's. Solicitor Paul Svillins and barrister Sue Chrysanthu. What an interesting coincidence. Barilaro went to work for Coronation Property, now Paul Svillins and Sue Chrysanthu. You know who else worked for Coronation Property? I won't say, but I wonder if Paul Svillins and Sue Chrysanthu know. Braver than me, if I was them, I would not want to lose whatever case they're working on, and probably would not want it widely known that I was working for Coronation Property either. And if I was Coronation Property, I probably wouldn't want it known that Barilaro's lawyers were representing me. But that's just me for my own personal reasons. At the end of the day, I hope it works out and everyone's invoices are paid. We all know how taxing fights over invoices can be. Just ask Clive Palmer. Safe to say though, very interesting place for Sue Chrysanthu SC to end up after acting for Barilaro. No matter how much barristers go on about the cab rank principle, you know, the principle that ostensibly means you can't refuse clients, I think it's a piss poor cover, frankly. If you chose an awful field to specialise in to begin with and deliberately engineer no-win, no-fee agreements, I don't buy the whole, oh, I'm only acting for this client under duress shtick. And my views on this aren't even because I'm ideologically opposed to defamation because I love free speech or whatever. It's way more simple than that. I just think it's such a wasted existence, churning through that much energy, charging $8 grand a day to lay on the melodrama for weeks on end at the courts for what are we talking about here? A few $100,000 changing hands and a few words being deleted. The process to me is more offensive than the outcome. I'd almost rather there was no free speech because it would mean that we could eradicate this parasitic industry that has grown from arbitrarily deciding what is defamatory in Australia and what isn't defamatory, because it turns out that it almost always is defamatory. So what is the point of these c***s? Just set up a hurt feelings police. These are sort of a hurt feelings consultancy firm. They overcharge, and that's my main problem. The price is not right. With the amount of money that's spent on this, that's the offensive part. What makes it even worse is that after acting for John Barilaro, Coronation Property, pro-Israel lobbyist, Pauline Hanson, Christian Porter, Attila the Hun, Lachlan Murdoch, etc., Sue Chrysanthu tries to present this folksy, lefty image of herself tending to native wildlife, living a down-to-earth, humble existence. I'd have so much more respect for her if she just stopped tricking herself. As if these shitty, trivial, performative individual acts offset the way that people who pay her bills make their money. Just go full Patrick Bateman. You've got the face for it. And don't get me started on how these lawyers try and intellectualize their profession, which is ultimately just, Miss, Jono called me gay. I'm not gay, miss. Like, watch this.
Everyone knows that saying about today's news is tomorrow's fish and chips wrapper. Well, that just doesn't happen anymore. Now, if you're defamed forever. It's on the internet, and even if you somehow convince the publisher to take it down, there will be social media comments about it where it has been spread and disseminated and discussed, and it's there indefinitely. Once you're defamed, you're actually never going to recover from that.
Never gonna recover. What if you just decided to get over it? Like, who cares? Do something cool. Go wingsuiting so people start thinking about that instead. Sometimes PR firms are seen as scummy rip-offs, but at least they're doing something about controlling your reputation rather than clogging up the courts with this doomer shit. I'm never gonna get over being called fat and Italian, bros. It's ruined my life forever, even though I am fat and Italian.
A new type of defamation that's occurring is not even being caused by a real person. Some of my latest briefs are people being defamed via AI.
I know, it's awful. ChatGPT is defaming people all the time. For instance, I asked it for a picture of Sue Chrysanthemum for my editors to use in this video, and this is seriously what I came up with. But seriously, this lecture really gives insight into Sue Chrysanthemum's utterly sheltered and tunnel-visioned worldview. She talks about analysing the lyrics of Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar songs to look for defamation, whilst also implying that she enjoys them.
My children and I are constantly talking about how Taylor Swift takes out her ex-boyfriends in her songs. And we pray that one day one of them will sue. One of my children said, you know, there's this great song, Mum, where Kendrick is dissing Drake. How obvious is it? They said, oh, well, yeah, like he's saying that he sleeps with, that he's a pedophile. And I said, well, does it come out clearly, or do you have to be a linguistic sort of, you have to know what a gyatch is and what all these other words. So this is actually a defamation case now. Drake has sued over the Kendrick Lamar song. He sued the publishing house. He hasn't sued the owner of the song and he's suing over the release of the song and the fact that it was played during the halftime in the Super Bowl. And if I start dancing, I really apologise because because this is a defamation action, I've become quite addicted to this song.
Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1.
Now she's doing copyright abuse as well. Look, she got claimed. That little spiel is just so opportunistic and parasitic. To view real life as at best an academic courtroom exercise, or more realistically, a chance to charge 8K a day. If you have to analyse the lyrics of a song to find out if it's defamation, can we all agree it's not defamation? I mean, you like these songs, yet you're excited by the abstract idea of potentially suing over them. That's psychotic shit. Most people don't hear things they enjoy and immediately think, oh, how can I get this into a courtroom and live off it like a leech and ensure that people won't ever be able to make stuff like this again because the record companies will be too scared to take a chance on it because they'll get sued. Are you not ashamed to be using this apparently brilliant mind of yours to litigate the most trivial and banal areas of human existence? Reputation management. Almost every area of law is more consequential than the one you operate in. Lawyers contesting parking fines are dealing with more concrete matters. Sure, you have the illusion of power as you have all the material trappings that are around you of nice courts, nice chambers, rich clients, lots of money, transactional puff pieces here and there in papers that no one reads. But trust me, Sue, at the end of the day, you're gonna die hollow, empty and unfulfilled. Now that is just my opinion. And you might think you're friendly with your clients, but to them, your relationship's entirely transactional. Your friends, insofar as a mob boss is friends with a hitman, you're of use, except at least the hitman is dealing with the physical reality of killing. That'll at least always be a skill. What I'm saying, Sue, is I have more respect for the goons that firebomb my house than you, as there is no bullshit pretense to what they're doing. They don't get to use academic arguments to rationalise what they do. There's no hiding behind the cab rank principle for them. They drove themselves. No lectures on hypotheticals about how interesting it would be to burn down Taylor Swift's house. You operate in the imaginary world of Australia's defamation laws. It is a parallel reality propped up by cosmic flukes and relative political stability. A tiny little corner of a tiny little corner in a tiny little time for a tiny little mind. You are a few sentences in legislation away from having zero applicable skills whatsoever, apart from maybe one day writing a history book on the strange time and place when parasites and rent seekers of society could come crying to their own parasites, who would in turn offer retribution not through any creative or physical might, but through whinging to geriatric judges and hoping that other parasites had successfully whinged in the same way in the past, such as geriatrics who generally don't understand any of the broader implications of their judgments arguments as they barely interact with the world around them, declare your whinge valid on a very narrow abstract ground. And you won't even be able to narrate the audiobook version of your history because you have not developed the talent for public speaking. You think that you would have had that endowed upon you from a decade plus of being a barrister, but here we are. As such, in pure self-interest masquerading as an academic argument, you desperately rally against any proposed reform to Australia's ridiculous defamation laws. But ultimately, I reckon you'd be happier and better off with a career change, frankly. There you go. Analyse that monologue for defamation. I know how much you like these stupid little exercises, and then for your own sake and mine, if I did slip up, let it go. Change careers. Study to be a vet like you always wanted. Sure, you might get a bit of moral injury from putting down a few puppies every week, but I'm sure it beats representing Israel lobbyist Barilaro and now Coronation. Oh, and in case this reminded you of the kind of work that we do here, secondary to top 10 cutest dogs, of course, just so you know, doing this stuff isn't profitable. We don't like doing it. In fact, it's so unprofitable that if you notice, there's quite a few cases that we're not even allowed to publicly disclose and never will be able to. We do them because it's necessary and in the public interest to do so. So if you want to ensure that we can continue doing them, give us some cash on Patreon, because again, that's the only thing that makes it possible. The cost of an okay coffee for a whole month. See you there with some bonus content as well.